granted, you have 4 weeks to pick guys up, but
The good thing.
I've read stuff about hold on to your money. Like by the end of
Yeah.
September, you should have most of your money.
And
So
if you're still
I'm still trying to-
surviving,
I'm still trying to figure that out. I don't know.
then you
the
have the
strategy.
cash to when you really need it.
But yeah, you don't want to lose.
All right, good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. Just want to start by just giving our best wishes and thoughts and prayers to Max Johnson as he continues to recover from his injury. I know we've reached out to him, and I know he's going through some hard times right now, and so just want to extend our thoughts and prayers to his family and the Tar Heel family as Max continues to heal. So hope for a really speedy recovery for him. I know that's really unfortunate for him. So. Disappointing that we lost the game. Simple as that. It was a really good football game when you look at an opener. You took it at two teams that are pretty equal, even when you go to the stat sheet, pretty equal in terms of how that game went. Somebody had to win, somebody had to lose, and we had every opportunity to win that football game, and we didn't. And they took advantage, and we didn't. So very simple when you kind of go back and look at it. Obviously, when you go back and look at it, you got to dissect it, where we have to really get better at, where we have to take the next right step. Team was eager to do that, which I'm really proud of them for that, and look forward to responding this week. So with that, open it for questions.
PJ, it looked like there was one pass over 20 yards. It was the DPI to Daniel Jackson on the last drive of the fourth quarter. How did you look at kind of the deep passing game, and where do you want to take steps in that?
Well, you got to be able to hold up in protection too. I mean, Jeff Collins. I don't know if you've studied Jeff Collins at all. Jeff will bring a ton of pressure. So by the time you get to your third or fourth step, you better get that ball out of your hand. And we called. There were 30 passes I think that we actually called. When you look at the actual total play, so technically 50-50. Max had to take off and run with some. It's got to be able to set up well, got to be able to have the right defense. There's times where we do have some people that are running down the field and we just don't hold up in protection, or they got one more guy free than we do to block. So and those are things you obviously want to do, but it's not every time. You're just, this isn't backyard football. You're just like throw the bomb. We got to be able to hold protection. You got to be able to have it in the right call. You got to, the right defenses. And, they did a really good job in a lot of different areas too, but we did throw the ball down the field a few times, which, and that I think we only had 55 plays, something like that. We only had 4 plays in the third quarter. So
On that protection, how do you evaluate the job your O-line did?
we've got a lot of room for improvement. I think at times we were really good. I think we were really solid, especially with some of the difficulty of the stunts blitzes that Jeff brings, some of the things we saw, some things that were new. But I think it's just the consistency level of that. It's one guy here or there. And we've got, 4 guys really holding up protection. One offensive lineman's leaning, and next thing you know, the guy beats him and then creates a rush, creates pressure. We got to step up and can't let the play develop. I thought when we were able to do that, we were able to throw it after the first quarter, after we settled down. I think we were able to do that really well. And the last 2 drives, I thought, show that.
You talked after the game about uncharacteristic things on offense, defense, and special teams. Now that you've had some time to look at the tape, why do you think it was that way?
Well, I think part of it's just football. I really do. I mean, we don't get called for that many penalties in that crucial of some situations. I mean, it wasn't the penalty. It was in the crucial piece of what happened with that. We recover a fumble inside the 10. We got defensive holding down the field. That's a huge flip in the play. They score 7 points on that. We probably score a touchdown on that. That's a 14-point swing. So those are some of the things that when I said that are uncharacteristic, that's what it is. Even in the last we run the ball to the 18-yard line. Different field goal at that situation. At the very end of the game, we get a holding call. Uncharacteristic for our guy to do that in that particular situation with that type of leverage lost. So those are the things I meant.
Jay, speaking of the offensive line again, is it a matter of them staying at home or better communication? Is there a particular focus this week?
Well, yeah, I think we have a whole focus as an offense. I mean, we talked about the ball. I mean, we fumble the football one time, but it's a costly fumble. We don't get on another fumble that they have. We fumble a ball inside, our zone, and they recover it. The drop back pass game, just in terms of protection, everybody's role in that, in terms of attention to detail, and then being able to score touchdowns inside the green zone. Period. That's what everybody wants to do that. I want to make sure I make that very clear. It's not like I enjoy field goals more than touchdowns. I mean, nobody does. But there's games we've won here 12-10, and that's what was required to win the football game. We're kicking a field goal at the beginning of the game. It's 0-0. You got to get some type of points on the board. We throw the first half. You're going to go down that first drive where it's 0-0 and we score the field goal. I mean, you got to go in there and do something. And we go down there and get the ball tipped on first down. We run the ball for no gain. You run the ball again to be able to get maybe half that back, maybe not even half that back, maybe get inside the 5 and make a fourth down call. Because if you don't get the fourth down, that's fine. They got the ball inside the 5 and the defense is playing really good. So, there's all those different things that come into play. But, obviously touchdowns are the focus. But those are the things we talked about on offense that we need to be able to continue to get better at. And then the consistency of all of it working together. Let's not forget, this is a really good North Carolina team. I mean, this team's going to compete for the ACC title. I think we're a really good football team. And kicking off week 1, I mean, those are the games that you kind of go into and, you find out a lot about your team in the middle of the game. And then when you look after the game, because you're playing a really good opponent, that's almost like looking in a mirror. And somebody's going to win that football game. Going into that, I don't get to tell all of you this, but in my mind, first 1 to 20 was going to win that game. You look at the defenses, you look at the familiarities with each other, playing each other last year, a lot of guys returning. They like to run the football. We like to be able to run the football. But, I mean, we attempted 30 passes. We had 50-some plays. I mean, that's close to 50-50 as you can get, for us. And, I thought it was we just had some really key mistakes and critical situations. And I know our guys are eager to get those changed. And with all that, you still got a chance at the very end in the final second to win the game.
What did the film tell you about your team's tackling?
I thought there was some really good tackles. I thought there was some tackles that were, not exactly up to expectation. So yesterday at practice, went right back to the tackling circuit. And I think it's one thing to you can scrimmage. We don't scrimmage all the way up to you go play. You have a few scrimmages throughout training camp. You do everything you can to keep your guys healthy and keep them up when you're not scrimmaging. But I think there's a difference when you go out and play an opponent like North Carolina with one of the best backs in the country, who's, kind of reminds me of Muhammad Ibrahim, maybe a little bit, obviously faster and things like that. But the way you hit him, he continues to go forward. And it doesn't matter if Cody Lindenberg was hitting him or Aiden Gooseby was hitting him, he was moving forward. And so we just got to be able to run our feet on contact. And I thought we tackled really well in some areas, and then other areas we didn't tackle so well. But I love the effort of the way we played and the fearlessness we played with the tackling. I think that was impressive for me, is to watch our guys, how they flew around. I mean, that was if you were down on that field, that was a violent football game on both sides. I mean, that was a very physical football game. And, probably both teams woke up probably feeling that the next morning. But that was a very, very physical game for week 1.
What did you learn about Brozmer in that last drive specifically, and what can he build on from there?
Yeah, I mean, he's so talented. And I think after he settled down, I think everybody kind of saw what he can do. Everybody's got to be able to help him out. We all got to be able to help each other out. But I thought, a little inconsistent early. But once he settled down and got comfortable, I thought he looked like what we've seen all the time in training camp. And he's a competitor, even when you see him go get those first downs. Unfortunately, we had one fumble. He'll learn from that. But, he's a competitor. So I don't know if I necessarily learned a ton, except verified exactly what he is and who he is. And now we just got to be better.
PJ, you saw Corey Woodmark, he was able to put on this defense this week. Obviously, a lot of pressure packages, a lot of DBs coming. How did you feel like things got when you guys brought pressure?
Yeah, I think that when we talked, earlier, you kind of asked me what I thought. I said the multitude of what we can actually do, the variety of that we have for everything that we can do on defense. I think that's what you saw on Thursday. As we can do a lot with different people. We have a lot of different packages. We played a lot of players. When you look from top to bottom, you look at the participation report. We played more guys in probably a week 1 than we've played. We're talking about Power 4 or whatever you want to call it, football. Where it's really close games against really good opponents. And we played a ton of guys. And I think that gives us the versatility on defense that we're looking for. As we continue to move forward, we're going to continue to be multiple and even more versatile and hopefully just keep people guessing as we go forward. But I thought they played incredibly hard. on the other side, Jeff Collins and what he does and the pressure packages he has and he brings and the confusion he can create on defense. It was interesting because we knew each other, but the defense side of the ball was both new on both sides. And I think it took took our teams a little bit to get used to that. And it took either a mistake or here or there to kind of get people going, and then everybody got in the flow of the game. But I like where we are on the defense side of the ball with what we're doing and how we're doing it. We just have to do it better. I mean, I thought we played incredibly hard, exceptionally well. We break contain on one of the quarterback's runs, and they score on that drive. We drop a coverage. We leave one of our receivers, and, they get that huge play going in to take the lead. So, I mean, there's things you can always do better. Randy brought up the tackling. I mean, we can tackle better. But those are things you find out. Every single team, 67 of the 134, are either really excited today or they're really upset today. And again, don't get me wrong, some played in Ireland a week ago. I get all that. But, there's 67 fan bases that are upset right now. There's 67 head coaches that are scratching their head going, okay, man, you're 0-1, and some are 1-0. And that's college football. What you have to be able to do is understand that it's a one-game season. And that's all it was one game against an opponent that was very similar to us. And I thought our guys competed their tail ends off. They played so darn hard. And it's just, it's unfortunate how it played out. But I told you, first 1 to 20 was going to be able to win that football game. We missed a really short field goal early. We missed one at the end. That would have ended up being 23 points. But, that's football. You can analyze it and look back on it, and that's what you do. We do the same thing all the media does. We do it in a very different way. But we all look back at what we could do differently and how one thing affected another thing. And you take it, squeeze all the juice from the orange, learn, and then you move on to the next week.
Anything you can pinpoint on those 2 missed field goals?
I thought he hit the first one incredibly clean. I mean, that thing almost went over the near upright. Coach Ligashevsky talked a little bit about him, just some technique things with his foot, things like that. But I have 100% confidence in Dri. You all know how much confidence. I mean, 3 years ago, I put him at Iowa with it was a 58, 59-yarder or something like that at Iowa. I've always believed in him, and I always will believe in him. I think he's one of the best kickers in the country. There's not one NFL kicker, right? Well, I can't say that. There's not a lot of NFL kickers who go 100% every single year. There are missed field goals. Unfortunately, it came at some really tough times for us in the game, especially the last one. But he responded really well. He was devastated after the game, as you can imagine, because they put so much into it. I mean, we're like any other team. You put so much into it. But it wasn't that kick that lost us the game. There were so many other things that made us lose that football game, from offense, defense, special teams. And we just didn't execute at a high enough level to beat a team like North Carolina. If we make that field goal at the end, North Carolina's probably saying the same thing I just said. We just didn't do enough to win that football game. And the margin for error is really small.
That situation where you can't wait to get him back out there again. Kind of like the reliever has a bad outing, the manager wants him back on the mound as fast
That's
as
a
possible.
great. I love that you brought that up, because that was my message to him in the locker room afterwards. The whole team was like, let's just ask him if they'll go play one more time. Let's just see if they'll reset it. 60 on the clock. We'll count it for another game. And let's do it again, because that's what I wanted. That's how I felt after the game. I really like this football team. I think if you spent time around this football team, you know what I'm talking about. I love how they compete. I love how they play. I love how they go about their business. I love how connected they are. We're really talented in a lot of positions. But when you're walking into that first game, as a lot of teams saw this week, and you look in a mirror and you see a team very similar to you, that's really exciting. But at the end of the game, somebody's got to win, somebody's got to lose. And you're going to learn from it a lot. And I think our guys are going to learn a ton from it. But we would have loved to go back out on that field. And that's the thing about football. You got to wait 10 more days to go back on that field. And they talk about that's the agony of defeat. That's what it is, because you got to wait a whole nother week, 10 days. If you lose your last game, you got to wait a whole year to go back on the field. Very different than the game of baseball, where you can just move on to the next day and get it right the next day, where football is a little bit different that way. So, but I know they're ready. They their mindset has been tremendous after that, and I know they want to get back on the field.
Towards the kicker in particular.
Yeah, I just talked in the team realm, because he fits within the team. So I know they all wanted to get back on the field, and I know he would too. we came out of practice yesterday, and he's the first one out there. So that's what you expect from Dragon. And he had a great day yesterday. And he's had great days. I mean, you look at him, and it's unfortunate, but happens. And we got to be able to learn from it and move on. I know he will.
On Thursday, you talked about how you don't believe the biggest growth in a team comes between game 1 and game 2. Why is that part of your philosophy?
Well, because if you're always growing, right, then how is there the largest growth? I've watched teams grow up the most after game 6 to game 7. The light bulb went on and they got it. I remember when I was at Western Michigan, I think we were 1-3 or 1-4, and we're down 20 at halftime against Ball State. But the improvement in that game was very different from the first game to the second game. Very different. I just think that every week gives you different data and gives you more data. And it's data not only from that particular week of what you did that week to get better, it goes all the way back to the first week. So when you're in week 9, yeah, you should be better and work on being better from what the data told you in your last game in week 8 to where you want to be in week 9. But it's also a culmination of those first 7 games before that 8th game was played. That's what I've always believed. I believed every week you should be able to change your best. I do believe this, that in week 1, you find out a lot about your team more than you knew the whole offseason because it's actual proof. I mean, that's the only data we have in a game is against North Carolina right now. That's it. So we have to go based on that. We can't draw from, the game in April. We didn't have a game in April. We didn't have a game in May. You have one game. That's what you have to draw from. And you have to take that as the concrete data and then move on to game 2, squeeze all the juice from the orange, do everything you can to be better at what you weren't in game 1. Then when you get to game 3, do the same thing from game 1 and 2. And your last game that you really can see is game 2. So that's what I've always believed that, just even as a player. And that's what I was taught growing up.
If Darius Taylor is cleared here in the next week or two, is there a decision in your mind to play him versus saving him for Iowa, or is that just overthinking it at this point?
Well, the good thing about your question is I don't make any of those decisions. So I don't decide whether a player plays and when he comes back and is he 60% in playing. I mean, our guys get cleared, and when they get cleared by the medical staff, the training staff, then they're ready to play. And then from there, you play him as much as you can play him. But Darius is one of our best football players. When he's ready and he's healthy, he'll be on the football field. But every game, we look to be 1-0. And I think that's what's always been really good about our program is that it doesn't matter who we play. It's about us, first of all, and then you're looking to be 1-0, and that's where your own mindset is, and the only mindset you have is on that particular game. And we'll do everything we can to get better from this North Carolina game, to put our best foot forward against Rhode Island, who came off a really good win against Holy Cross, played really well, got a really good quarterback. They're a really, really good FCS team, and I know they'll be hungry to come in here. So we've got to make sure that we do what we can to be the best football team we can be. We're going to listen to the trainers and the doctors, and when they tell us that he's ready, then we'll play him. Thanks, everybody. Row the boat, Sky Go Gophers. Thanks.